RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sun Rayz. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, ongoings, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the table. If you're watching this episode right now, chances are Dave Palumbo is mid-air somewhere above the Atlantic Ocean en route to Dubai. I'm about to board the flight later on tonight. This week, of course, we're going to be in Dubai for the Dubai Muscle Pro Show. We're going to be doing interviews with some of the biggest names in all of bodybuilding. Dave Palumbo is going to be on the main stage interviewing some of the biggest names, Kai Green, Jay Cutler, Michelle Lewin. It's a huge, expansive list. One-on-one interviews, we're going to have them all on the RxMuscle.com YouTube channel. Let's go straight to the questions. We go to Tiffany Boyle. I hate this show more than having to negotiate with my 6-year-old to eat his vegetables. Dave, tell me your toughest, hardest memory of almost quitting bodybuilding, but found a way to persevere and keep moving forward.
You know, I never felt the need to quit bodybuilding. You know, there was some times where I didn't place well at shows. Like I think it was like 98, 99 in those years. And even like maybe I think 2000 and even into 2000, I wasn't doing well. I don't know why I wasn't placing well. I have no idea. And I kind of was like, you know what? I almost didn't want to compete anymore because it was so frustrating that I was going to these shows and I just wasn't getting any love from the judges. But, you know, I just love the industry. And you know what? The more the worse I did, like the more I was booking guest postings and stuff like that. It was like a weird like phenomenon. And I had a supplement contract, you know, for Metrics for many years. So that kind of like, I was like, well, who cares? Dr. Connolly didn't care if I competed or not. So I was appearing at all the shows and I was getting paid. So I'm like, you know what, Dave, just enjoy the bodybuilding, you know, lifestyle and industry. Don't worry about competing. The competing will always be there. If you do it just because you like it. And so I did that, and slowly but surely, 01, my placings went up. 02, I placed second. 03, I placed second a couple times, and then it was like rejuvenated me, and I started really, you know, I was getting a lot of coverage in the magazines, which was still important back then, and you know, I think it like reignited my career in a sense. So. You know, I think that what you have to realize is that not everything works out the way you want it to, and sometimes it's impossible to really know what the grand plan is. And I've said this many, many times. The only way to fail in bodybuilding is to quit. Okay, if you quit, there's no possibility of success. You know. Likewise, don't be delusional either. You know, I've sat people down, and they know who they are out there, and I've told them, look, you know, you're not going to be either a professional bodybuilder, or I've told professional guys, you're never going to win a pro show. You know, and I said, I don't like telling people that because I don't like putting limits, but at a certain point in someone's career, you know when they're not going to achieve something, you know, maybe because they're in their 30s already, and I don't want to see people injure themselves, and I start seeing destructive behavior because people think, well, if I'm not doing this or I'm not winning, maybe I just need to do more drugs, or I need to, and at that point, you got to sit them down and say, look, you know, you're very smart. I told one of these guys, I said, you're very intelligent. You're a very good trainer. You have good insights into diet and stuff like that. You know, I've worked with you many years. You understand what's going on. You're going to be a great coach. You might never be the best bodybuilder, the best professional bodybuilder out there, but you're going to be one of the best coaches if you really put your mind to it. And that's a way to stay connected to the industry. It's a way to earn a living doing what you love. And maybe that's what you were really put here for. It wasn't to try to, you know, challenge Dorian Yates for the Olympia title, because you're never gonna be there. And it was a brutal reality check for that person. But you know, to this day, they still remind me of that talk that they gave, and they tell me how much they hated me when I said it to them. But they actually succeeded. So you know, at some point in my career, I realized, you know what, I'm not going to get this pro card. They're not going to give it to me. And you know what? If I got it, what would I do with it? I'm not going to win a pro show. I didn't have the kind of structure that would warrant it. Did I have a crazy structure where the fans loved it and I got freaky attention and guest posings and seminars? Yeah, but that was my niche, and I had to exploit that if I wanted to make money from it. I couldn't delusionally think that I was going to be someplace else. So you have to constantly have reality checks, but never lose your goal and your passion. Never quit. But it's okay to change what the goal is and to change where you think you need to go with it. If it gets to a point where you're done and you say to yourself, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, then don't be afraid to leave either, because sometimes that's your internal voice telling you, okay, guys, that's it. Let's wrap this show up and move on to something else. And so you got to listen to your inner voice. And I think a lot of people are afraid to listen to their inner voice because they think that people are going to judge them or say something to them, and they're going to think they're not as good as they really were. You know.
Just a quick reminder again, this weekend will be in Dubai for the Dubai Muscle. So I just wanted to expand upon the list so you know what you have to look forward to this upcoming weekend. Again, keep it locked to RxMuscle and the YouTube channel. Kai Green, Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, Michelle Lewin, Brian Shaw, William Bonek, Dorian Yates, Angelica Teixeira, Daniel Lynn Bailey, Branch Warren, Kevin Lebroni, Hani Rambod, we'll see if we can get him on, Flex Wheeler, Arash Rabar, Hadi Chupin, Guy Cisternino, amongst many. Dorian Yates, I think I already mentioned him, but Blessing Awadibu, who we featured earlier this week on RxMuscle.com. So all these names, we're going to have them one-on-one. Dave's going to have them one-on-one on the stage, and of course, Dave and I will be out and about in Dubai. We'll get all of that documented on a video and a lot of surprises on the way.
I didn't know, Sid, the boogeyman's going to be there?
That's what it says on the website.
I can't wait to interview the boogeyman, man. That might be my most, that's going to be the best interview there.
That might be the one that literally the whole fitness expo just stops and surrounds the main stage to watch that, because everybody's so intrigued by them. I mean, you called him possibly the next Kai Green in that other video that you did a few days ago, and so much of that resonates because a lot of people see those same, similarities, the characteristics, the traits, the goofiness. I mean, he's got a unique niche that he's already carving out. Maybe
we should get the boogeyman to dress up as the boogeyman, and Kai Green can put his Spider-Man costume on, and they can have some kind of like a mock battle on the stage or something like that. You know,
what would we even call that?
Boogeyman versus Spider-Man, you know? Predator versus, maybe Predator versus Boogeyman. That might be better. It's like, remember the movie Jason versus Freddy? You know, where they had the Friday the 13th series versus the Nightmare on Elm Street series? That's what it'd be like. Or it could be Predator versus Alien, something like that, something in that light.
I dig that
I'll
kind of
have Tyler put some music into it. It'll be great.
I don't know if Dubai is ready for that kind of theatrical production just yet. Let's go on to the questions. Brad74 Rogers, Dave, wondering why we haven't seen any new types of gear out there. Just the same old that we've seen for the last few years. Your thoughts?
Because there's no money in producing new anabolic steroids. There's plenty out there already. They already have a bad stigma on them. As far as hormone replacement goes, what do they use? They use testosterone. That's already available. There's been a lot of different developmental forms of testosterone if you think about it. There's these long-acting ones like Nebido. They inject it. It lasts 12 weeks in your body. They have the pellets. So there's been a lot of creams. There's a lot of gels. There's a lot of different testosterone versions because that's where there's money involved there. But there's no money in creating new anabolic steroids because no one prescribes them anyway. They're really just the raws are being cranked out of China, and then it's all black market type stuff. Obviously, on the protein hormones front, we've seen some new developments, but people think IGF-1 is really new, but it's not. It's been around since 1995 or a little before that, so that's not really new. But basically what we're looking for is new hormones in the body. SARMs are the newest thing to hit the new kid on the block, so to speak. And to be honest with you, they don't work that well. Some people would swear by them, whatever. Those are the people that usually sell them, but they just don't work that effectively. Now, maybe the next generation of SARMs will be better, but steroids work better. So people are going to use what works better, and that's just the bottom line. Probably the newest thing that they could possibly come out with, and I don't know when it will come out or if it ever comes out, would be a real true myostatin blocker. And from what I'm understanding of the science of myostatin inhibition, myostatin is that protein that inhibits muscle growth. Our bodies produce varying degrees of it. The more you produce, the harder it is to grow. The less you produce, the easier it is to grow. Flex Wheeler theoretically has none, according to the genetic tests that were done on him. But the bottom line is if we can inhibit myostatin from working in the body, we can theoretically grow better. That probably is the newest possible breakthrough we're going to see in muscle building drugs. The problem is blocking it all the time. So we either have to have some kind of a time release myostatin blocker that you take, or gene therapy to somehow modify your myostatin production, which seems a little scarier. Whenever you start getting into gene therapies where you're actually inserting genes that change the way your body was, DNA works, that to me is a little scary. I'd rather take a drug that kind of does something that if you decide at some point, hey, I don't want to take this anymore, you're done. You change your genetics where you produce no myostatin anymore, you block your myostatin permanently, that's for the rest of your life, so. But I think that's where we're going to see the newest technology. I just think it gets harder and harder to make new stuff because we have such good stuff out there already. I mean, steroids and growth hormone and IGF work pretty damn good. Look at the size of the guys out there, right? So, I mean, how much bigger can the guys get, All we can do is become maybe more efficient at producing these gains and maybe have less side effects occur in response to that.
Let's go to LGV88. I really want to use site enhancement drugs, but I have no idea when would be the best time to do it. I'm currently 245 pounds, 6 feet tall, around 15 to 18% body fat. My question is this: is it ever too early or too late to use site enhancement? And when do you know it was time to use it when you competed? I feel like I'm ready to use it, but lack the confidence to actually do so.
Yeah. I always had, my arms were never really up to the snuff of the rest of the size of my body. I had a long arm, so for me, a 20-inch arm that I had just didn't look that big. I needed a 22-inch arm, 22.5-inch arm. And so for me, when probably right around the time I needed to start using it, which was like when I realized, hey, these arms are never going to be up to snuff with the rest of my body, or same thing with my calves, that's when they first were created, back in like 95 or so, 96. I think 96, Chris Clark came out with the pump and pose. And so I started using it, and it worked really well, and once again, it worked well because there was science behind it. So, and there's not that many products out there. There's only 2 products on the market that actually have true science as a site enhancement oil, and that's the Chris Clark synthesized and the painless pumps. Those 2 have real science in them. I'm not going to go into what the science is because I don't even know all of what's in there, but I know most of what goes on. We're talking about glycoproteins and transport proteins and stuff like that. But what you're basically doing is you're creating a vehicle that's going to increase not only your muscle size initially from the oil being put in there, but also it's going to increase protein synthesis and build muscle over the long term. So the question is, when do you use it? Off-season, pre-contest? Well, the longer you use it and the more consistently you use it, and you're using a product that has true science in it, the better, the more long-term that the more permanent the gains will become, and the better the results will become. So it's not just about loading oil into a muscle to kind of give it, a temporary swelling. You want to actually build new muscle. Because what happens is when you use these products for a year or 2 years, you build new muscle. So if you stop using the product, you don't lose the size. And that's the key. So, I mean, if you're looking for, I give out the protocol for free that I've kind of developed on my own if you email me. Likewise, my DavePalumbo.com website sells those 2 products that I recommend. If you're just buying someone who's selling a sterile oil, basically, you're getting nothing but volumization into the muscle. You're not getting any permanent muscle gains. Yeah, the muscle will look a little bigger because you're putting volume into it, but it's not going to do anything long term. It's a temporary fix. And that's the way a lot of these products are. There's a couple other these water-based, hyaluronic acid products out there, and I'm not going to get into a fight with Nick Trigilio over the whole thing again. It might temporarily swell the muscle that you're using it on, but it's not giving you long-term muscle gains. And I think after all, if you're going to spend all this time and money putting something into your body, you want to get gains, out of it. You want to get some permanent improvements, and that's why these products have lasted for 25 years, and they're still being used to this day because they do work.
Let's go to Dream Killer. Is it okay to get all my carbs from fruits versus non-fruits? What would be the difference in results?
If you eat all fruit, you're probably going to be pooping your brains out from all the fiber in the fruit. I'm a fruit nut. I love fruit. And the first thing I would crave after doing a show and being all dehydrated would be fruit. Literally, almost, and I fell for this stupid thing every single time. I would compete. I'd go, have a great dinner. I'd come back to the room and I'd order room service. And I'd order like the biggest fruit plate they had because I was so thirsty, especially after going out and eating a bunch of junky food. And I would eat literally the whole fruit plate. And I would be in agony. My stomach would be so full. And I would be, the next day I'd be pooping my brains out from it, from all the fiber in the fruit. So fruit is not really a good way to extract, low glycemic carbs. Now, low glycemic carbs are carbs that take a little longer to digest. They trickle their carb sources, their carb load into the bloodstream over a longer period of time, and they give you more sustained energy. Fruit is simple sugars. Gets in very quickly. You get a lot of carbs in fast, and then they kind of disappear. When you're trying to gain muscle, you want long-sustaining carbs, in your system all the time so that your body doesn't use the protein and fat you're eating for fuel. Okay, so I just think that does fruit have a place in the diet of a bodybuilder, especially off season? Yeah, sure, you can have fruit, but I wouldn't make that my mainstay, fuel source, because it's just not consistent enough and it doesn't last long enough.
Let's go to Papa M Fitness, or rather Panos ZS. Dave, recommended HCG dosage after a long cycle.
I've said this. I've told you guys my PCT, many times before. I usually like 2,000 IUs every third day for about 5 shots. So it's about 10,000 units over the course of 2 weeks. The reason I do every third day, because I know there's guys that use, well, why not use 500 every day or 1,000 every other day? I like every third day because it seems, at least from the literature, that HCG peaks initially, and then 3 days later you get a second peak from that same first shot. So you get overlap. So that's why I do it every third day. So it seems to, this way you're always getting 2 peaks. Once you take that first shot, by the second shot, you get a double peak on that day, and so on and so on and so on. So I've just found through experimentation on my own that seems to give the best results. There's other ways of doing it. When I give out my pregnancy protocol for people, I tell them to take 1,000 to 2,000 IUs of HCG every other day, or 1,000 every day, because there's a different goal in mind. In that goal, we're trying to maximize sperm output by the testicles, not necessarily, trying to kickstart the testosterone production. If you take HCG every day, your body's not going to want to turn its own, LH and FSH on. But if you give it a huge jolt every third day, now in between that, your body might start turning itself on. So there's a different strategy.
Let's go to Spike. I've been following your detox program for a week now, and I'm down 6 pounds. My question is, why are your protein choices fat-free, and why not peanuts or avocados as a fat source?
Peanuts seem to have allergen type of responses in some people's bodies. On my detox program, I want no allergens in there. I'm trying to give the body, I want to give the immune system a rest, and remember, the immune system responds to foods that have allergens in them. I'm trying to give the digestive system a relaxation, meaning that's why we're only eating 12 hours out of the day, and we're eating very easily digestible foods. Think about it. You eat a food that is a fatty source of protein, it's much harder for the digestive system to digest it, because now the pancreas has to produce a ton of digestive enzymes, the liver has to produce a ton of bile. That's not resting those organs. So the idea really behind a detox and cleanse is not to eat anything. Okay, that was the old dogma. Starve yourself, just drink water for a week, straight. But for bodybuilding and athletic purposes, that's very, very catabolic. So I read a book, I think I told you guys about this, called Clean, where they suggested, look, you can detox just as effectively, as you would by fasting for a week. Over 3 weeks, if you just limit the kind of foods you eat and you only eat, for a prescribed number of hours per day, you'll get the same effects. It just takes a little longer to get it. I think for bodybuilding purposes, that's a better way to be and a better way to go so that you don't lose muscle. People think, well, I have a fast metabolism, I can't only eat 4 times a day, and I'm going to lose. You're not going to lose any muscle because you're eating enough to sustain what you got. You're going to lose a lot of toxins. You're going to deplete a lot of glycogen from your muscles, and you're going to give your organs a rest, and they're going to shrink in size a little bit, which is good for people who have very, very big, intestines, and that are causing their guts to stick out. So what we're doing is we're allowing the body to heal itself, and that's really what the 3-week detox is all about. 3 weeks is a very short period of time. You're not doing any damage to your muscles, I promise you. You'll come out of that detox way better, you'll grow better, your receptors will be better, your body will function better. Why? Because your organs are going to function better, because you're giving them a relaxation and rest. And you're also giving your pancreas a rest from having to crank tons and tons of insulin all day long. So I highly recommend, this is the time of year where everyone's been emailing me and saying, hey, Dave, can you send me the detox? I send it out for free. You can contact me. I have a whole list of stuff that you use on there with it. I have a bunch of rules. And you know what? This is perfect downtime. The month of December, nothing's going on. Do your detox now before the holidays get here, before Christmas gets here. So this way you can eat during Christmas and New Year's. don't do it over the holidays, because then you're going to feel miserable. Now, some people say, you know what, I'm going to do it January 1st, which is fine. The problem is a lot of guys are trying to get ready for shows in the spring, so they want to get back onto their off-season bulking. So I tell people now, right after Thanksgiving, you jump on your 3-week detox, get it out of the way. Then the holidays you can eat and do what you got to do and get back to muscle building again. But I'm telling you, try it once, you'll do it every single year after that.
Let's go to Billy G. Fit. Dave, what health supplements beyond omega fatty acids and fiber would you recommend are as essential while on a heavy cycle?
You know, I'm a big believer, obviously, in keeping the liver functioning well, because look, when you're on anabolic steroids, there's a lot of toxins being produced. The liver can handle breaking down, especially injectables, no problem. Okay, the problem is that the liver kind of gets stressed and it swells. And when the liver swells, the bile ducts inside the liver, these small little ducts get pinched off. And the bile ducts are how the body releases toxins out of the liver. So the liver dumps the crap, essentially, into the bile ducts, which then go into the gallbladder with the bile. And then when you eat a fatty meal, it gets released into your intestinal tract, and then you kind of poop it out of your body. The problem is if these bile ducts get backed up and the liver can't release through there, it goes backwards, okay, into the liver, and it stays in the liver, and it makes the liver swell, and over a long period of time, the liver can become sclerotic, or in other words, scar tissue, collagen gets laid down, and you damage your liver permanently. So one of the things you should definitely be taking is a really good milk thistle, which is, you know, the chemical name is silymarin supplement. It also contains some N-acetylcysteine in there, which is a great antioxidant for the liver. You know, if you combine those two together, you get a really good liver detox product. Bill Llewellyn makes one called Liver Stable. I actually sell it at DavePalumbo.com at a discounted rate if you guys want to go on there and pick that up. I would use that during cycle. You definitely want to use it when you're doing your 3-week detox. If you happen to be one of these guys who runs high creatinine and BUN levels, which a lot of guys do, okay, not necessarily you're pathologically high where you're in trouble. I'm talking about just high normal. I would stay on I sell another product on DavePalumbo.com. I don't make these products. I sell them because I know the bodybuilders need to use them. It's called kidney stuff. It helps, once again, what the milk thistle does for the liver, the kidney stuff does for the kidneys. It keeps the kidney tubules, the filtering mechanisms of the kidneys, open. So the blood vessels are open so that the kidneys can filter the blood more efficiently, keeping the waste product, the BUN and creatinine, lower. Okay, because when you start getting high BUN creatinine, it means your kidneys are not functioning well. So these are two products that are very easy to incorporate into your cycles, in your detoxes, so that you make sure that your organs are able to get rid of toxins from your body. Because after all, you're only as good and efficient as building and repairing muscle and burning fat as you are at getting rid of the waste products from your body. And once again, I always equate everything to a fish tank. If the tank is not clean, if the water's not clean, if the filter's not working properly, if you're not doing your water changes, your fish will not grow and they will not thrive and they'll get disease. And that's the truth. And that's just the way the body works too.
Let's go to Iron Built Muscle. Being a natural bodybuilder, when it comes to training, would you agree with the notion that less is more for a natural bodybuilder? For example, when training a muscle, I find that 4 exercises, 3 sets each with the right weight and maximum intensity is more than enough to simulate muscle growth. Sometimes I feel that 4 exercises for 3 sets can still be too much and I can get away with less. My muscles already feel so pumped and I feel beat up halfway through my workout. Could I be overtraining?
Absolutely could, and everyone has a different level of overtraining. I would go to the gym, and I've told this story before. I'm repetitive, but repetitive is good because it reinforces these concepts in people's minds. I would literally go to the gym and I would do incline bench pressing. I'd start chest and I'd go on the bench and I'd do 135, I'd warm up. I'd go 225, which was still a warm up for me. I'd go 315, I'd get maybe 8 reps, 6 to 8 reps out. And then I'd put, 365 on the bar and I would do maybe, 6 reps. And then I would go 405 and I would do 3 to 4 reps. When I finished that incline chest workout, I wanted to go home. I didn't want to go do flat dumbbells after that or hammer strength or cable crossovers. I wanted to literally leave the gym. I was like, I don't need to do any more than this. And I always just succumbed to doing more. And as my career went on, I realized, I don't need to do more than this. So what I would do is I would literally pick one more exercise, let's say flat dumbbells. I was already warmed up. I would grab the weights, whatever I think I was using 140s at the time. That was like a comfortable weight for me. I would squeeze out, 6 to 8 reps with that. One set, all out, as many as I can do. Training partner helping me get a few at the end. And then literally I would go right to cable crossovers, and I would do one set with whatever I could do for like 12 reps, just barely squeeze them out and really squeeze the pecs. And I'd go home. That was the end of chest. I didn't need to do any more than that. And I just knew that if I did more, I was going to overtrain. I wouldn't get response. And when I started training like that, my chest, which I considered a slight weakness for me, weak body part, responded unbelievably. So yeah, when you're done. When the muscle is cooked. And if you're really able to squeeze and use full range of motion, control that weight, and use heavy weights, you're going to grow from that. You don't need to do any more than that. More is not better. Okay? Once you activate the muscle with heavy weights, that's enough of a stimulus to build muscle.
Let's go to SPaul95. Dave, does a high fiber increase or high fiber intake increase or decrease the absorption of nutrients during the process of digestion?
Yeah, fiber shouldn't affect the absorption of any supplements whatsoever. Nutrition, nutritional vitamins and stuff like that, and minerals. What it can block is certain fats and stuff like that, but even then it doesn't. What I always recommend for people to do is, if you're going to take a fiber supplement, I'll tell you how I handle my fiber, okay? I take my fiber in the middle of the day sometime, like probably an hour after I eat a meal, okay? So I'll eat a meal, I'll take my vitamins for the morning, and then maybe an hour and a half later or 2 hours later, in between a meal, I'll take my first Fiberlife shake. Then I'll eat the rest of my meals, I'll go through my day, and at the end of the day, it's usually around 12 midnight. I don't know why I picked 12 midnight, but at 12 midnight, I have my I'm already done eating. I have my second Fiberlife shake. Like clockwork, when I get up in that morning, okay, by 9 o'clock, I go to the bathroom. Okay, so it has like an 8 or 9 hour, window, and you can set your watch to when I go to the bathroom, okay? And that's how I do it. And you know what? It sucks. Sometimes I miss one of the shakes during that. I forget because I'm too busy or I'm at the office or whatever. And it throws my whole schedule off. So I try to every day get the 2 servings in. And it doesn't really matter when you do it. But I just don't do them next to when I take my nutritional supplements. Will it inhibit them? I don't believe so. I think that more of the fat-soluble supplements might be more vulnerable to blockage by fiber supplements. The water-soluble ones definitely are not.
Let's go to George RJ. Why do you think guys look better the next day of a show? For my shoot, I didn't experiment and ate whatever I wanted, and the next morning I looked incredible after depleting. I've tried carbing up on clean carbs, but never seemed to look anywhere near as good on junk food. Any reason as to why this might be?
Yeah, I don't think it's the carbohydrates in the junk food. I think it's the fats in the junk food. And I think the people make this mistake of not eating enough fat, okay, prior to a show. They think, all right, I got to carb up, so I'm going to eliminate all the fat from my diet. I'm just going to eat some moderate protein, and I'm going to pound the carbs. And the flatter they look, the more they pound the carbs. And at some point, the carbs don't do anything because the glycogen stores are already filled. And the reason they're flat is because the intramuscular fat is depleted. When you get so lean where you have no body fat on your body will start to eat the fat up between the muscle fibers. And that's fat that we want there because that fat makes the muscles fuller and rounder. So when I carb my guys up, they're carbing with fat. Okay, they're eating protein, fat, and carbs. And a matter of fact, usually the night before a show, a lot of times I'll give them a burger and fries, which is fatty, greasy, salty, because they're so depleted, their bodies just suck it up and they look good. And that's really what people notice the next day. They're like, yeah, Saturday night after the show, I had 6 pieces of pizza, or I had a burger, and I had 3 burgers and 2 fucking plates of French fries, and the next morning I woke up, I looked amazing. Well, yeah, you fat loaded yourself. So, surprise, surprise. Once again, you can't eliminate any nutrients, okay, if you want your body to look its best. And a lot of times people never learn. Sometimes people realize, hey, this what. That's why I do a lot of last week preps. There's a lot of guys out there who are great bodybuilding competitors. They got their diet down pat. They're fine with it. They hire me for the last 7 days because they're afraid to do stuff that might be off label, so to speak. And so I walk them through it, and they do the process once, and they're like, holy mackerel, I can't believe how good I look. I would have never done this myself. And so once again, that's just because I have a lot of experience, and I've made all the mistakes myself already. So it's up to you. You can hire people like me, to help you with the last week. You can try it yourself. Don't be afraid to eat fats, though, the days leading up to your show.
Muscles and molecules, interesting one here. I'm not sure if you've ever touched on this topic. Considerations you would make for a bodybuilder with epilepsy.
Epilepsy or seizure disorder, people who follow a ketogenic diet get really good results with that, because ketogenic diets inhibit seizures, okay? I had a client I work with out in California, and she has seizure disorders, and when we had her on a carb-free diet, ketogenic diet, she never got seizures, very, very infrequently, and she said she never wanted to come off of it because she felt so good on it. So that's a great diet to institute if you do have epilepsy or any kind of seizure issues.
Let's go to Jay Warchild. Dave, can you take essential amino acid pills if you need to make up a protein deficit? For example, if I need 8 ounces of chicken but eat 6 ounces, can the amino acids make up some of the protein loss?
I'd answer that question with no. I would say no. Now, if you remember a couple years back, there was a lot of companies, nutritional companies, some big companies that are still around, that got caught protein spiking, which was basically, they were selling whey isolate or whey proteins, and they were actually, instead of putting 25 or 26 grams of protein per serving, they were putting like 13 grams per serving, and they were padding it with like 12 or 13 grams of amino acids, branched chain amino acids, which is way cheaper cost, not as effective potency-wise, of course, because it's not a complete protein. So you really can't make up for whole food proteins, of which I'd consider whey protein isolate a whole food protein. It's just in powdered form. You can't make up for that by giving individual amino acids. It just doesn't. It's not the same thing.
Take a couple more questions. Caddy, the Caddy Wampus. Your opinion on female physique athletes losing menstrual cycle after a competition season? How soon would you like for a female client to be able to normalize their menstrual cycle?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily having a menstrual cycle is necessarily, something that you need to have. But if you're not getting it because you're deficient in something, that's a different story. So some people lose their menstrual cycle because they take anabolics. Even Anavar can cause you to lose your cycle. And that sometimes can take 6 months to come back just because it throws your hormones out of whack. Some people lose their menstrual cycle because of the restriction of the diet, the low calories, the low fat in some people's diets, the fact that they have super low body fat. And once again, remember, estrogen is made in your fat cells to a certain degree. I mean, it's in the ovaries, but a lot of it's converted in the fat cells. So, sometimes they lose it because of that. They have to wait till their body fat comes up to a certain value. So I don't necessarily have a problem. If you're 6 months post-contest and you're not taking drugs anymore, any kind of anabolic steroids, and you still haven't got your menstrual cycle, you might want to go back to the gynecologist and get checked out at that point, get some blood work done and see what's going on. But in my experience, most women, even the most hardcore bodybuilder women that take stuff that they should not be taking, get their period back after about 6 months.
I'm going to sandwich a couple of questions. They're comparing injectable versus orals, patches, and gel application. I know you talked about orals in the past. If you want to just touch on the efficacy of topicals and gels and patches.
Patches are probably more potent than gels, but because gels get rubbed off. You rub it on and then you got to let it dry, and you can't rub against anything. And that would be, if I ever had to use gels, it would be a disaster, because I'd get my arm wet. I would rub it off against a towel or a shirt. I don't like gels particular. I think injections are the best way to go, because if you inject 200 milligrams of testipionate, you're going to absorb 200 milligrams of testipionate. You know the precise amount that you've input into your body. If, however, you take an oral pill, okay, of a certain quantity, who knows how much you're absorbing? What if you got colitis, or what if you got a malabsorption issue? You might not be absorbing it all. Plus, orals are very toxic. So for me, I think the best routes of administration are anything injectable. Even though they put the pellets now in your butt. Some of these people get these testosterone pellets, and they slow release testosterone. If you put something under your skin, at least you're absorbing it. I don't particularly like that. I enjoy injections. To me, I think that's a very great delivery way. When you're done using them, if you don't want to use them anymore, they're not sitting under the skin. It's gone. It disappears. Your body absorbs it. So that if I had to pick, the ideal the way to do it with the least toxicity, it would be injectables, long-acting injectables.
Last question from Cameron Coates. Can taking gear worsen a heart arrhythmia or cause someone who does not currently have one to develop an arrhythmia? Also, what has been your experience or limitations with arrhythmia?
It's hard to say if steroids could cause an arrhythmia or not, or if you're just kind of born with it and they can make it worse. Obviously, if your heart gets thicker, even as an athlete who doesn't take anabolic steroids, our hearts get bigger. It's called athletic heart. While it's functional for the sport, if you have an arrhythmia issue, it can make it worse because arrhythmias are usually caused by the fact that the signal the electrical signal that tells the heart how to beat and contract can get disrupted if the thickness of the wall of the heart is too big, because it takes longer for the signal to cross a thicker chamber than it would a normal sized chamber. So I think, at least in my situation, my arrhythmia, they said, was caused by the fact that I have a very thick left ventricle, probably because I was 300 pounds at some point and I thickened my heart up, and for some reason, when I exercise at a very high level, aerobically speaking, not anaerobically speaking, but aerobically, if I get on a spin bike or I go outside and ride a cycle and I exercise too hard, what happens is the heart has to beat very fast, and after a while, it can't transmit the signal fast enough because the membranes, the muscle size is too thick in my heart. So I start throwing weird arrhythmias because of that, and it throws my heart out of rhythm, and obviously you can die from that. That's how these guys spontaneously drop on basketball courts and stuff like that in college. They don't know they have an arrhythmia, and they're exercising where their heart is beating at a super high rate already. And then what happens is they go into an arrhythmia and their body can't come out of it. So I have a defibrillator, inserted. I have one under the skin there. It's kind of like backup for me. If anything happens, my heart goes into an arrhythmia, I get shocked. Luckily, it's never happened, and it reestablishes the correct rhythm of my heart, and I don't die. I didn't have to put it in there. I did it because I have a family now. I have kids, and I want to be around for them for a long time. So it's like I said, it's a backup system. But the bottom line is to say that steroids cause that. Who knows if it does or not? I think weight training in general thickens your heart, and I think that steroids can exacerbate that, but I don't think steroids can cause an arrhythmia. I think that you have a predisposition for that possibly, and thickening your heart wall can make that worse. Very few things are caused by steroids themselves. Obviously, if you take too many and you take too many short-acting or orals, you can damage your liver because the liver has to break those things down. But by and far, steroids are not really damaging to the rest of the body directly. If they increase your blood pressure, obviously they can damage your kidneys. But the steroid themselves are not damaging the kidney. It's the fact that you have high blood pressure. So that's why it's important that you check all your health markers periodically while you're doing cycles, or even while you're just being a bodybuilder, because being a bodybuilder in and of itself can stress the body out if you don't watch over what's going on.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave, again brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sun Rayz. Reminder, all weekend long, we're going to be dropping content on RxMuscle.com and the RxMuscle YouTube channel of our one-on-one interviews. Dave with some of the biggest stars in all of bodybuilding from the Dubai Muscle Show. And of course, videos from around Dubai. Is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of content for you. So keep it locked to RxMuscle.com. For our producer, Tyler Shore, and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.